What's going on, everyone? Today I'm here with Miss Cynthia Tabe. Now, she lives in London, and she's joining us today to speak about what she do for a living, and also we have some questions definitely from her about growing up in Cameroon and also how she deal with things in London. So, Miss Cynthia, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Miss Cynthia, you grew up in Cameroon, correct?
I sure did. Yes, I was born there.
So, how is it living in Cameroon?
It was, should I say, a very great experience, a very great life experience. It sure was a lot more different than the life in London. But overall, it was a great experience. It taught me so much, so much. So many life skills that I'm using actually now, which are helping me now. Overall, it was such a good experience. I'd say very good experience for me.
So, you mentioned these life skills you're using now. What are these life skills?
It teaches you to be strong. It teaches you to be resilient. Life over there teaches you to multitask, to know how to make something of something else. In terms of if option A is not working, then option B, or use option A to get to option B. If I'm explaining myself clearly, it teaches you so much. I mean, strength is one of the biggest one, because I mean, you as a child growing up there, you go through so much. From your family life to your school life to your friendship and so much more.
So, can you give us an example of something that you possibly been through that brought those values out of you?
I was actually thinking about something the other day. I mean, something came to my mind. I was just remembering my childhood, and I was just comparing it to I have a 9-year-old son, and I realized that being a girl actually, it's very delicate, because in Cameroon, or while I was growing up in my time, we live as a community. I mean, people still do now, and you can leave your kids, or your kids can go places where you trust that they're going to get back, come back home. And I was thinking, I think I must have been about 9 or so, because I was still in primary school, and I was in a taxi by myself. I hailed a taxi, and I went. I was going somewhere to meet my cousin, and I was in a taxi by myself. I mean, I just thought about that, and I thought, I can't see my son. I mean, he's 9 years old now. I can't imagine him being in a taxi, taking a cab by himself. I can't. And it's stuff like that. I mean, you have to look out for yourself. You have to know how to carry yourself when you're outside. You have to know how to look after yourself, basically. So that gives you the strength that at an early age, and it's a sense of responsibility that here you don't have that. I know my son definitely doesn't have it.
So, did you grow up with your mother and your father?
No, I didn't.
So, was
I
it
didn't.
just with your father or just with your mother?
I grew up with my grandmother.
Your grandmother.
My
Okay.
grandmother and my aunties. Yeah.
Okay. What happened to your parents?
They were overseas. They were overseas. They weren't here.
Okay. Oh,
They were in Cameroon. Yeah, they were overseas.
oh, okay.
I mean, that's very typical. I mean, many children do grow up with their grandparents or their aunties or uncles. I mean, typically it's the grandmother who raises the kids.
Well, here in America, that happens a lot too, unfortunately.
Exactly.
We have people who are irresponsible and they have children, and then grandma comes in and to prevent
And
the
take
kids from
them.
going to foster care and getting in the system, they take the kids. We see that so much. So, so that's definitely something very similar. So, as you grew up, when did you leave Cameroon? I say, when you grew up, when did you leave Cameroon?
About over 20 years ago. I left Cameroon over 20 years ago.
Okay, and what made you say I want to go to London?
Well, It's generally the same reason, change of life, have more give myself more opportunities. I mean, I was a kid, so I mean, continuous school. I went to secondary school here, and then did my, went to university here, and I've made my life. So really, it's when kids come over or when parents bring over their children, it's really so that they can have a different life, give them more opportunities in life, really, and that was mine as well.
So, what is the difference in the opportunities between London and Cameroon?
It's vast. I mean, I love Cameroon to bits. It's me, it's my country, it's my homeland. It's engraved and ingrained in me. But I mean, with everything that's going on in terms of leadership and jobs, it's really not happening. I mean, you see people with a master's degrees, two master's degrees or whatever, and they still cannot get the job, that is suitable for them. I mean, a degree now is nothing because you have so many degree holders, and some could be, stall sellers, just hanging around in their parents' home. They have nothing to do. So really, there are no opportunities. The opportunities are minimal. Right now, what you tend to see is a lot of the younger generation. They are creating their own jobs. I mean, with technology and everything, you see a lot of them now are creating their own jobs for themselves using technology, to make a living, which wasn't. I mean, over 20 years ago, technology was really not really heard of.
And what you just said about Cameroon is really happening here in America. There are people that have degrees right now and cannot even get a job in that field.
Yeah.
And if people would do better, like you said before, creating their own jobs that people can't take away from you, because this economy in America, like I said, is just not as good as what people like to say it is. But so you end up moving to London, you got settled in, you took advantage of your opportunity. So what made you get into PR?
Well, to be honest, I fell into it by chance. So let's say around 2008, that was when I was actually getting more and more on the internet thing, and it was actually becoming the in thing. So I had this website by this Nigerian girl that I used to go on to get my daily dosage of what was really happening around the Nigerian community and as well the African community in general. So I would log onto her site to read what was happening, and I just thought, okay, why can't I read something like this about Cameroon? And I was searching and couldn't really find anything. So I thought, okay, I'm reading all this great stuff about Nigeria and other parts of English-speaking Africa on this girl's blog. Why can't I want to read something like that about Cameroon. So I started something called Dulce Camer blog, which was my blog that focused on Cameroonians in Cameroon and within the Cameroonian communities around the world. So I was just finding stories, stories that would about people's achievements, what people were doing, young people, what they were doing, the businesses they were running, and who was, doing what and where, and it proved really, really popular. And the next step was, I'm also interested in fashion, so with a group of friends, we came up with a fashion event, which was, ran for like 2 or 3 years before we stopped it. And it's just kind of like a natural progression. I knew that after I started the blog, I knew that promoting others, embellishing others, I say I'm a lifestylist because I'm styling all this, all these people to sell their better self. So I knew that after, through doing that was what I was good at. I was good creatively, I was good with details, and I was good with communication and promoting people. So it really just pushed me towards the PR route, and that's how Mode Maison PR came about.
So in PR work, and when someone comes to you, what they normally expect you to do for them?
To help get their brand out there, to help either I work with the entertainment side, so when I get people approach me, it's mostly they want to release a song. and they want, help with release a song, releasing their song, or with releasing an album, or when they have a fashion collection, they want, me to handle the press side. And then, there was those that just wanted to work with me on a permanent basis to help them with their brand, because they wanted to focus on, creating that, their product, and they needed someone to be focused on, the public and the media.
So is that like a 24-hour job, or that's like a 9 to 5?
Well, PR really is not 9 to 5, I would say. You definitely can log on at 9 o'clock and log up at 5 o'clock. No, it's really round the clock, because something could be happening and you really need to, especially with online. Online does not sleep, and that's where the issue is. If it was, pre-online time, then yes, you can be 9 to 5, but maybe someone might call you while you're sleeping or late at night because something has happened, and news might broke, or something has happened. But nowadays with the internet, that's just 24 hours, always going. You as a PR person, you have to be with it. You have to be with it. You have to know. You have to make sure that you're available all the time. And I mean, yeah, that's part of the job at this stage.
So you say you have a son. How does that your work, since you're kind of busy, go inside with your son, and you say he just came in and stuff like that?
Well, he's 9 years old, so he pretty much looks after himself in terms of, I don't really need to do much for him, apart from all I need to do is now at this age is, guide him and make sure that, he is well and, everything is fine. But I mean, if he needs to eat, he knows how to get his food, which I would have cooked. So really, I mean, it's not, I'm not as hands-on as, if you were maybe 5 or lower, So he pretty much, does his thing, and I'm there. And in terms of his work at school, I make sure he gets that done on time, correctly, and stuff. So really, I'm kind of like I'm a multitasker, because I do all of that, and I still have to, look after my family.
Now, have you ever been to America?
Of course, yes, I do.
Oh.
I have. I mean, 2 years. When did I last come? Not this summer. Last summer, was it? Yes, last summer we were there. I have family there.
Oh, you have family here. Okay. Because I'm noticing that there's a big African culture in London and the UK. I'm noticing.
Mm-hmm. There is, certainly, especially the Nigerians and the Ghanaians. That side, I mean, it's very. I mean, the Nigerian and Ghanaian communities is large.
Are they moving for opportunity purposes?
I think so. I mean, these are people that have been here from years, from maybe, from the 50s and 60s and 70s. I mean, they've been, I mean, it's like they're home now. So I'm sure probably they all probably came back in the 50s and stuff. They came to study. I mean, some went back, and others, stayed or had kids that, they left here and they've gone back, because what you tend to see is the older they get, in the African community, they go back home. And then the kids, remain here and so on. So it's like a cycle. When they're starting to get a bit older, they move back.
So what is the difference you notice between America and London? Just overall climate?
Overall, I said, what hits me is the lack of opportunities for Black people. I see that there's like a different, that they live, it's like a different life. It's like separate life. And another thing I do not understand is how, here, maybe somebody who didn't go to university like I did, let's say somebody, left school at 16 and they started working somewhere and they were really, really great at what they do. You see that they can move up in their employment. They can even end up with a very, very good post. Mm-hmm. But I realized that in America, that's not possible. You have to do a course to go from one level to another. When you're at that level, you want to move up to another level, you have to do another course to move up to another, to another level. I mean, it's like you spend your whole life studying and doing courses, and I just don't understand that. Am I wrong?
Oh no, you're not wrong at all. Then you're speaking about black people here in America. You can be highly educated, and you still probably will not get to the position of a white person that has less education than you here in America. So what you're saying is the racism is less in London than it would ever be in America.
Well, I think, I mean, like they say, here probably it's not as open. They probably do it, hidden and stuff like that. But you don't feel it as much as when you're in the States. I mean, even with everything that's been happening, in the past year or so. When I went last year, I was very scared, to be honest. I was very scared, and when I talk to my family, I always tell them, please be careful, especially when you're driving. Make sure there's someone with you, and if the police stops you, make sure you go live. Or you give them all these tips because you're scared, because you never know when it's what's going to happen. I mean, I am scared for them, to be honest, and I don't live in the States.
So do you fear being stopped by the police in London?
No, I don't, because they don't have guns.
So the police officers don't have guns.
No, they do not carry guns.
Well, that's amazing that they don't carry guns, and yet how is the crime rate?
I'm not very sure. I mean, I'm sure there are different parts. I mean, depending on where you live, there'll be, crime going on, pickpocket, mugging, stabbings. Again, the stabbings and stuff is mostly young black boys, because they get into gangs, or they don't want to get into gangs, and another gang member is probably bullying them or so and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm not that age. I'm not, I'm not a guy, and I'm not young, so I'm not in a gang, so I'm not scared about that. I mean, in terms of, I would say really it's mostly stabbings, or in the black community, stabbings, or maybe drug related. But it depends on where you live. If you live in a different part of town, you may get, you may hear not, you may hear about stabbings going on. But I mean, where I live, no special place. So no, I don't really hear about stabbings and all of that. So for me, I feel like I'm safe. Maybe pickpocketing, but you have to. If that's the case, you have to ensure that you carry your valuables, or you can hold your bag properly. And I always tend to do that. So really, I'm not. I don't even get worried about that. And I'm thankful that the police don't carry guns as well.
So if your son was to grow up in the United States being a black boy, you would be petrified.
I'll be petrified. I think I would move. Honestly, I think I would move. But saying that, I'd never liked to. I mean, I had never liked to live there, because I found, I love when I go there. The roads, the big roads, the big houses, especially in Dallas. But that's just it. It's just those things. But aside those, I just find life there very, very difficult. And again, for a woman, I may be wrong, but when you go on maternity leave, it's like 3 months or maybe less. I'm not sure. That's and you have to go back to work. I mean, that is, I don't know how they handle that. To me, it's really too soon. And also, we get many more days of holidays than I think you guys do over there. I think it's like, what, 2 weeks a year?
Yeah, depends on your employer. Like, but I see some women that have a child, and in 2 weeks or so, they're back at work already with a child in daycare. And I'm like, I don't see how they do that. Yeah, some women will go right back to work in 2 weeks. Had a little bitty baby in daycare. When I had, like I said, I've had my children, and I've never had my children in no daycare. I refuse to. I'm like, you can stay home, let me go work. I work 2 or 3 jobs before I have my children in daycare, and they stay with their mother.
Right. I mean, it's a difficult situation. I mean, even when my son went into daycare, I think he was 6 months or 9 months, and it was difficult leaving him. And I just can't imagine leaving a 2 months old, especially with all that is going on. I'm not very trusting with all that you see in the world. I'm not very trusting, and to leave a 2 month old, I think I find it dangerous. I just think it's so dangerous. But then again, when you're faced with a certain situation, you just have to move with it, isn't it? If you really have no one to help you and you have to get back to work, then you have to get back to work.
So, based off of everything that you normally see out of America, and if you could speak to the Black Americans, do you suggest that Black Americans visit different parts of the world or even possibly move due to the problems we have here?
I'll say so. I'll say so. I mean, I say that to my family. I keep pushing them to move to Europe or come to London. I keep saying, you're not. Why do you only think you have to be there? You don't really have to be there. You can move around. Come over to Europe. So I would definitely tell them. I mean, when you go around, there's a difference between a person who travels around and someone who doesn't. Because once you travel around, your vision enlarges, and you see so many different things, and you learn so many different things that it enriches you. So really, moving or leaving the States, even if it's not permanently, it could be like for a year or so, go somewhere else, go to Paris, learn a new language, or come to London where they speak English, or and see what life there is about. So that even if you want to decide that, okay, I'm going back to the States, you would then know, apply the things you've learned onto your life and make it better. So if you can, Black American in the States, if you can travel, please do. If you can move, please do.
And I think our biggest problem as Black Americans, and I think I'm going to try to start promoting this, is the first step is getting our passports. A lot of Black folks don't even have a passport. Right. And it's not...
That's what I...
Yeah, it's not extremely expensive to get a passport, and that's including myself. I told my wife, I said, we all getting our passports in 2017. That's like first order of business, because we need to start traveling. I want to go visit, London, different African countries as well. Many people say, why don't you come visit? So I want to do that, and so I definitely promote us to start doing that, because these people are getting crazy.
Right.
Yeah, so these people are crazy here in America. So, Miss Cynthia, could you tell us where people can contact you at if they wanted to look at more of your work?
Okay, so I am on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I have my private Instagram and Twitter, and my Mode Maison PR one. So if you were to check out my PR work, so you can contact me at Mode Maison PR. That's at MODE MAISON PR. If you want to just follow my private life, well, it's not really private. It's still about what I do in terms of photography, traveling, PR, fashion. You can follow me on Brown Sugar. So it's at BROWNSCHUGA, and that's on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram.
All right, well, Cynthia, I definitely thank you for your time, sharing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sharing with us the knowledge, and definitely putting out that message that we need to get our passports and start looking elsewhere, because of this country is crazy.
Get your passports. Yeah, it's getting crazier. So, with your new president, touch wood, everything will be fine. But get your passports ready. If you need to go, if you need to come over, and if you're in London, tell them to holler at me. I can be their guide for a bit. Show them around, and yeah. So yeah, holla.
All right, thank you, Miss Cynthia, and we'll see you another time.